Welcome to the Fantasy Wire HQ podcast. Thanks for jumping on with me today. I appreciate your time and the download. You can follow on Twitter at Fantasy Wire HQ, bookmark the website fantasywirehq.com, and then hit the subscribe button, review button, auto download button, whatever you'd like on your platform of choice that you're listening to the podcast on today. I appreciate it. I really, really appreciate all the good feedback and subscribes that I do get. I'm grateful that you guys give me a shot and listen to me during part of your day. It means a lot. I wanted to drop a quick cast today on what I've got coming out as far as content in the fantasy football world over the month of June, July, and August. We're in the high tide of the NFL season right now, so there's not much going on with the coronavirus and everything. No, we're not. It's not going to be Corona talk. The NFL, obviously, it seems like it's way out there on the horizon, but we will get there. I believe they will start on time. The season will go off, I hope, and we will all be there to enjoy every minute of it. So, content-wise, I just dropped a 32 and 32 series on Twitter, and what that is fantasy football per team, all 32 teams. I'm going to drop a new team every day, and I'm going to break it down in 4 categories for fantasy football. It's going to be flex appeal, a player that I like, got my eye on for maybe the flex spot in my lineup this season, a fantasy breakout player, guy that could break out, do well, maybe comes out of nowhere, maybe he improves on a decent season last season, the fantasy dynasty buy. Obviously, there's going to be more than one guy on a team for Dynasty, but this is just a guy that I like right now. And the fantasy football radar, a player that I'm going to put on the radar because I don't really know about him just yet. He's lurking. I'm going to keep my eye on him, see what happens in the offseason, then into training camps and preseason. Maybe he's a guy I watch list, in my league and pick him off of waivers if I need to. Hopefully get him before everybody else finds out about him. Kind of just the guy I got my eye on. So each one of those will be dropped every day on Twitter, and there'll be a link at the bottom to take you to the website, fantasywirehq.com. And there I will have a little more insight on each player, just so I can have the room to lay out on these guys versus Twitter, where I can only get so many words and descriptions in. So there you can get a little more info on each player, get a quick take on each player. And like I said, every day, new team through the month of June. And I think that, 32 teams, it's going to wrap up right about the 4th of July week there. So check that out. And then the next thing on the horizon this week or next week I'm going to drop is the Fantasy Football Roundtable. And this is going to be a kick-ass article. I cannot wait to drop it.
Awesome.
I've got some great people in the fantasy community, and I super, super appreciate their input and their time, taking the time to contribute to the article. And again, it's going to be a couple categories in fantasy football. Not the categories of boom, bust, rookie of the year, defensive rookie, and all the same old stuff. I've got a few of the tried and true in there, but I try to tailor it to us, to me, to you in our draft. Okay, so it's draft time. It's coming up to draft, whatever the case. And you're looking at these players and you're going, all right, who's going to be my top target? Who's going to be an undraftable player? Who's going to be a comeback player? And just some stuff like that. So I've got some categories in that respect that are a little more interesting. And each person that contributed, including myself, we've got a take on each player in those categories. And it's going to be a really good article. It's going to be very resourceful. So bookmark it, check it out. A lot of really good people. And I wanted perspective from everybody. So, I've run the gamut. Everybody that's in there is got some awesome takes and really good picks in there. And they're all, for the most part, I'm getting them all uploaded here. Everybody's looking like they've got different picks. So there's some good variety. It's not all of us just saying the same old players, which is good. And I think you'll like it. Check that one out. Be on the lookout for it. And then after that, I got an AFC West preview podcast. And what I'm going to do is jump on with the Good Old Boys Fantasy Football Podcast crew.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
It's going to be a good one. And we're going to break down the AFC West team by team. We're going to look at fantasy players, and we're going to break down the division as it relates to fantasy and for real life NFL. I cannot wait for that podcast. It's going to be really good. And then moving on to July, then I'm going to drop Fantasy Wire HQ War Room series. It's going to be an all-access podcast. It's going to start in 3 episodes, and each episode I want to provide a little insight into drafts, strategies, thoughts, plans, prep, and I'm also going to use that series to give you all access through my leagues this year. I'm going to pick one league and kind of break down my thoughts as I head into setting lineups, waivers, trades, commish problems, whatever it is, whatever comes up. I'm going to pick one of my leagues. I don't know which one yet. And I'm going to do a quick cast each week during the season as part of that War Room All Access. So you guys can kind of get a look into my brain.
Good God.
Yeah, you may say good God. And just see how I approach the season and things that I do throughout the season. So that's going to be a really good series podcast. I cannot wait to get to work on that. I've got it almost put together, but like I said, it's going to drop in July. I cannot wait to do that. And then the next article that's coming out to read is going to be #BecauseFantasy. I wrote that a lot last season. And what it basically is when you've got a player to start, you're going into a week, into a matchup, and you're going, okay, I'm looking at player A, his stats say this, my gut says that, and all of the things are positive. He should have a monster week. You play him, and he gets 2 points, 5 points. He sucks. Maybe he gets hurt. Whatever the case, the only thing you can do is shake your head and look up at the fantasy gods and just say, because fantasy. What else, right? So I wrote an article based on my years, and we all have years of this happening, but just some trends. I'm really analytical sometimes, and I want to say, what do the numbers say? Why do they say this? And then I want to say, what does my gut say? What are some gut feelings that happen every single time this happens? The month it happens in, whatever the case, the week. So I wrote an article breaking down that and profiling how that happens and why I think it happens. So check that one out. And then I'm going to jump and do a Ravens preview and an AFC North preview with my man Dennis Colazzos. We're going to talk about the division, real life and fantasy, the Ravens, and break down the AFC North from all angles. Then I'm going to jump into a fan cast with Matt Portscheller, and we're going to talk about the NFC North and the Packers. We're going to do the same thing, break down the division, get an outlook for the upcoming season, whether it's fantasy or real life NFL, and have a good conversation about that. I'm really looking forward to those podcasts as well. And then getting into August, probably a little quieter. Most of us will be doing our drafts, getting ready for our drafts. So we're going to buckle down, and I need to buckle down this season because I did not win any of my leagues last season. I came in second in a few, tanked in some others, but I need to get down. We got to get the prep in. We got to go into the War Room. So you'll see me through that as well, but I'm going to hammer that out. Podcast-wise, I'm going to have an NFL full season preview with the OG, Mitch Zimmer. And when he gets on the pod, you better believe we're breaking down all angles of the NFL. That's right. We're going to talk about fantasy perspective and real life. We're going to break it all down, casual conversation style, and I'm looking forward to that. I don't know what part of the month, probably early August. I'm going to try to get that in and drop that one. That's going to be a good one. So that's about it as far as content coming. I'll probably have some more, in between there. But if there's anything you want to hear, talk about, ask me about, anything, hit me up anytime. DMs are always open, email, Twitter posts, whatever you want to do. And I really, really appreciate you listening. I really appreciate the community as a whole, the positive fantasy community. And it just kicks ass. That's all I can say. I love it. I need more of it. And I cannot wait till the season starts to get into this thing. So Twitter, again, Fantasy Wire HQ. Website, fantasywirehq.com. And then the podcasts, keep on downloading, subscribing. Leave me some reviews. I really appreciate it. I love the feedback and appreciate you taking the time to give it a listen throughout your busy day. So until then...
Yeah, all right, this press conference is over.
Go away.
No, it's over, Phil.
Well, please,
it's over.